My story is one of siblings, 2 older brothers and a sister caught up in the middle. And the factor of our up and down relationship, I think, is our personalities and the world that we actually live in. And the fact is, there is so much disinformation out there. Some people are kind of so polarized. And one brother, for me, is a conspiracy theorist. He's labelled himself that. And the other is a scientist, and they argue over messages. They have heated conversations at family gatherings, and I always feel caught up in the middle of it. And it makes me confused on who to believe. I obviously want to have time with my brothers and listen to them and make sure that they feel heard, but it gets really difficult. And I think the biggest problem has been actually within the COVID pandemic. I fell very ill with COVID right at the beginning, and there was hardly any information out there. I sadly looked up my symptoms on the internet, which you should never do, and I actually got a Mail Online article, and it was describing symptoms similar to mine, but the fact that people were actually dying in hospital from infection. That evening, I was very tight of chest. I couldn't catch my breath, and the symptoms kind of persisted that I had. And I ended up actually having to call an ambulance. The ambulance took hours to come, as you can imagine at that time. And I was lucky enough to actually be able to talk to my cousin, who's a nurse. And she was working in ICU at the time, so was on the front lines. She was able to triage me and go through my symptoms and calm me down. And in the end, I managed to get some rest and some sleep, and I actually didn't need the ambulance in the end. But what I now know is that I'd actually had a panic attack, so severe that I'd called the ambulance just because of the misinformation that I'd actually read. And during the pandemic, obviously, I didn't have that much connection with my brothers obviously, we had messages and some FaceTimes. And at the time, my eldest brother, who kind of believed COVID was a hoax, even though my cousin was on the front lines, kind of petrified of what she was doing and all the people that she was losing in care. And even though I'd almost sort of ended up in hospital myself from, having, such a bad kind of outbreak of COVID. And that really hurt, not being able to trust your own family and their experiences. That really hurt us, and I think it hurt my younger brother as well, who he struggled a lot during COVID. He's got very bad asthma, so he was, taking it really seriously. And obviously, the other thing to come out of that COVID era was obviously the vaccine debate. Now, I think the kind of latest argument and row that my brothers have had that's actually left them not talking currently at the moment is around vaccines, and my brother spouting uncited science papers showing that there's been an increase in unexpected death rate. And obviously, looking at it, it hasn't been kind of read by other scientists, and it hasn't even kind of reached the mainstream media either or been cited, but it's causing these big problems between my brothers. It's also kind of hard, I think, for both of us because we've obviously had the vaccines. And looking back at it, I do struggle with kind of how easily I did go and take all the vaccines. I think I ended up having like the max amount that we could have at that time. And just knowing, kind of not having the trust in government and healthcare at that time. Obviously, looking back on how we were treated, I do question whether we should have had so many vaccines. But I don't know whether this kind of questioning is obviously from the information that I am being shared from my brother. And it's really difficult still to know who to trust, where to get the right information from, and whether the big farmers are ensuring that the truth isn't getting out and things like that. And it's really scary how quickly you can get caught on the wrong side of an algorithm on Instagram. And with present day events, I always try and follow different sides of the argument, just to make sure you are getting a well-rounded view and not falling into an algorithm. And I think it's important for freedom of speech as well to hear everyone and not become so ingrained in your bubble. But I don't think that misinformation, especially around health, is good. And just learning this era is the funny one, right? It's funny for humans. We're so hyper-connected, but we've lost so much connection in real life and in community. And I don't think the pandemic's helped that. And I know a lot of families that have similar problems. To how to navigate people that you love with different opinions is really tricky. But one thing I have learned, or I have realised, is that my brothers have always fought since I'd come into this world. They've always had tiffs and arguments, so they're always going to fight. And I think it's just about how we can bring people together and listen to people and have compassion for people.